Hello, everyone. Good evening. I hope all of you are doing brilliantly well. I am your host, Swaima Ahmed, and I'm so delighted to have all of you in today's live episode on how to become a great TED speaker. Now, ladies and gentlemen, as you all know, that PlanetSpark firmly believes in the idea of kindling the flame of learning. And to accomplish this mission, what we primarily do is we come up with activities and workshops and competitions and events and initiatives like these to basically empower you with all that you need to amp up your personal development, your confidence building, your public speaking skills, and your creative writing skills. And this is one such initiative, which is absolutely in alignment with the mission that we have as a Planet Spark motto, which is all round development or holistic development. So, my dear participants, in the last few episodes, basically, what we've done under this particular section of TED Talk is that we've introduced you to what exactly is a TED Talk, what does it stand for, what is the mission and the vision of TED Talk, how do you actually accomplish the mission of becoming a TED speaker. Now, I know it's a distant dream for most of us, but primarily as budding speakers, I think it is our responsibility to actually gear up. And how do we gear up, my dear participants? We gear up by actually taking part in competitions, by reading rigorously, by basically acquiring all the knowledge that we need about TED speaking, about TED Talks, about TED platform, and eventually setting a foundation for our public speaking skills and for our idea generation. And that's what exactly we're doing, right? In the last few episodes, we've discussed at length about the three fundamentals of a TED Talk. We've actually explored different topics, as you all know, like Olympics, meditation, self-confidence, topics like, we've discussed about Olympics as well, climate crisis as well. So what I'm trying to do, my dear participants, is equip you with all that you need right now to become a charismatic speaker. So I'm trying to set a foundation for you, a robust foundation for you, by basically making you more aware about the fundamentals of a TED Talk, number one, and number two, by helping you explore different topics that you know that a TED Talk can be delivered on absolutely any topic under the sun. Now, even though the word TED primarily stands for technology, entertainment, and design, the topics are never limited to only technology or entertainment or design. You can speak on any topic that you're passionate about, that you're interested in, that you want to talk about, that you're strongly, convinced with, or maybe you want to just challenge an assumption that people have. So you're free to basically choose any topic of your interest as a TED speaker, number one. Number two, you need to remember your idea has to be an idea worth spreading. That's the tagline of TED, you see, an idea worth spreading. And the founder and the global curator of TED, Mr. Chris Anderson, says that every TED Talk will actually give you the gift of an idea. So he doesn't refer to idea as something vague. He refers to the term idea as a gift, as a present, as the foundation of a TED Talk. And that's the reason why developing a particular thought structure, generating ideas, making sure that you are able to collect your ideas significantly is the need of the hour. And today we live in a dramatically distracted world, my dear participants. We live in a world wherein we are immersed in information pollution. We have information coming in from every direction. And at such a crucial junction, it's imperatively important that you actually filter the information. You actually have a keen observation skill, and you select, you cherry pick the things that you really want to absorb. And I think something that can actually come handy at such a crucial junction is journaling. It's said that journaling is like meditating on paper. And when you start journaling, a journaling could be in form of writing a diary. So something that I do is maybe you can just, if you have something incredible popping up in your mind and you think I can develop this idea and talk about it to my friends, or maybe in a gathering or in a conference, you can always jot down your ideas. Jotting down your ideas, developing your ideas is always a great idea. So something that you can always do, number one. Number two, my dear participants, if you're somebody who maintains a daily planner, a a daily planner like this, probably, if you're somebody who maintains a daily planner, in every daily planner, we have a notes section, that's where you can jot down your ideas. I feel these are some incredible techniques, my dear participants, as college students, as school students. I think journaling can actually give you a sense of crystal clarity. It gives you an immaculate vision towards your life. If you're someone who's confused right now, who's in a sense of bewilderment, trust me, journaling can actually come to your rescue. So try journaling as a public speaker, my dear participants. I remember having my favorite journal in school way back in my 8th grade, 9th grade. And I always made it a point to actually write down quotations, anecdotes, short stories. I used to learn new words and write down the new words in my journal, actually. I still have the journal with me. And honestly speaking, with a lot of modesty, I feel incredibly proud of the kind of foundation I built for myself. I did not really spend time doing frivolous activities, even in my school or college days. I remember investing my time in reading, in participating in competitions, writing feedbacks for myself, analyzing my performances, having a journal, maintaining a journal where I would jot down all my key ideas, my quotations that I memorized, the anecdotes, the short stories, the bold statements, short poems that I can actually make use of in my writing or speaking. And I think these things have actually added so many brownie points to my overall communication game. So if you're looking forward to upscaling your communication skills, my dear participants, please remember journaling is the key. You have to start journaling. I'm not saying spend hours and hours journaling about absolutely anything random. No, you've got to be very specific about your journaling, and you've got to give some time every day, because as they say, consistency is the mother of mastery, my dear participants. So you need to be consistent about journaling. You need to have an aim while doing it, and trust me, it's going to work wonders for you. Now, if you're actually writing down ideas for a TED Talk, please remember, participants, you have to work at creating an idea, generating an idea that is healthy, productive, simple, unique, and something that is meaningful. All right. Please work at such kind of an idea generation and keep discussing these ideas, participants. Don't keep this idea to yourself. Make sure that when you're actually talking to your family members over dinner table, discuss with them. When you're actually meeting your friends out there, you can discuss these ideas with them. I think the best thing you could do is take part in group discussions. So whenever there's a discussion happening at the dinner table, family discussion, anything about your family, anything about the society, anything about politics, take part in the discussion. Get to know what's happening around you, ladies and gentlemen. Get to know what's happening in and around the world. I wouldn't say spend hours reading newspaper and getting to know the current affairs, but you should know something about everything. At least know what's happening around you. You should be able to speak up. You should have the capacity, the capability to speak up when there's a discussion taking place instead of keeping mum. So actually taking the initiative to be a part of a discussion or initiate a discussion can actually go a long way in helping you become a leader, because initiative is the essence of leadership. We all know that, right? So some basic things that you can do, my dear participants, and trust me, it's an absolute honor for me to be here as your host. And as I shared this earlier as well, by profession, I happen to be an entrepreneur, a public speaker, a soft skill trainer, an event manager, and also a TED speaker. I delivered a TED talk way back in 2018 on becoming forever fierce, which is all about how to become more confident, how to become more charismatic using some simple techniques like confidence, commitment, consistency, and compassion. The 4 C's to leading an epic life. And I would appreciate if you guys watch it and let me know your feedback as well. And from this experience, my dear participants, of course, it was a dream come true for me. But from this experience, I primarily learned the nitty-gritty of how a TED talk takes place, the kind of effort the organizers put in, the preparation that you do before the TED talk, the kind of dummy runs you have, and the constant process of refinement that takes place, not just in your content, but also in your performance and also your audience engagement. Wow, it was a phenomenal experience for me. And the beauty of a TED Talk, my dear participants, is that no matter where you deliver it, even if it's a local place, in your surrounding, in your neighborhood, in your periphery, no matter where you deliver the TED Talk, it's gradually uploaded in next few months on YouTube in the TED Talk section, TEDx Talk section, and it's available for global viewership. So there are local TED Talks also that have gone viral, because of the content the speakers shared. So eventually, the essence or the bottom line is making sure that you have ideas worth spreading and you're able to actually put forth the idea in a captivating and eye-catchy fashion. So on that note, my dear participants, let me quickly come to the agenda for the day. So once again, welcome to this section. Welcome to a live episode on how to deliver a great TEDx talk. It's all about dazzling your audience with your oratory skills. Please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, my dear participants, because we all keep sharing incredible content on personal development and public speaking on all these social media handles, and I'm very sure you'll be able to capitalize on it and add a lot of value and meaning to your skill sets. Now, what do we have in store for us, my dear participants? So in today's PSTV live episode, we have something very exciting for you. We're going to talk about, we begin with an icebreaker, of course, as a tradition. We will move on to the fundamentals of a TED Talk, which you already know by now, the three fundamentals. Remember, number one, introduction. Number two, the opening. Number two is the big purpose. And number three is the personal touch. Today, we'll be focusing on a new topic. I have a brand new topic for you and something very eccentric, something very rare, but absolutely worthwhile. All right. So that's the topic that I'm going to be revealing very soon. We will discuss only the strong opening part today. And there are three essentials of a strong opening. We'll be discussing the three essentials in detail with examples that everything is comprehensive and holistic and wholesome. We'll be basically having some fun time also. We'll play games like Who Said This, Fastest Fingers First. I'm going to give you some tips also in form of expert tips, some words that I want you to add to your vocabulary because vocabulary building is the essence of fluency. I'm also going to give you some summary at the end, ask you some questions based on the content we've discussed today. And at the end, my dear participants, I'm going to give you a recommendation. But my request to all of you, my dear participants, is to make sure you actually watch these recommended videos because they will actually fortify your idea of a TED Talk based on the particular theme. All right, now on that note, let's quickly have our icebreaker. Number one, based on the following images, can you guess the happy emoji? What emoji are we referring to? And all you've got to do is make a guess. And since all of us have become so techno-savvy these days, I'm sure it's going to be a cakewalk for you. Let's see the first one, ladies and gentlemen. What emotion is this? What emoji is this? Any guesses? All right, so I think a lot of participants have joined today on Facebook and YouTube as well. Thank you so much, my dear participants, for your overwhelming response. Please keep the support flowing in, and I'm sure all of us really want to see PlanetSpark TV growing in leaps and bounds, and that's not possible without your unflinching support. So please keep joining us. Please tell your friends about the episodes. We go live every day from Monday to Friday from 7:15 p.m. to 8 p.m. and the episodes are absolutely informative and thrilling. So the first one is, well, most of you say it's a happy emoji. Let's be a little more specific. It's a grinning face, actually. It's a grinning emoji. So well done. You're partially correct. The second one, my dear participants, is this emoji. I'm sure you must have used this multiple times in your chat, especially with your best friends. Well, that is rolling on the floor laughing. That's the emoji. The third one that I have for you, ladies and gentlemen, is this emoji. That's my favorite emoji. I remember using it so many times in my chats. So, well, that is a crazy or an excited face. All right, now we come to the agenda, the fundamentals of a TED Talk. Participants, there are three fundamentals in a TED Talk. We've been throwing light on all these three fundamentals since the first episode. And these three fundamentals are, number one, a strong opening. That means your beginning. That means your introduction. The first paragraph, technically speaking. The second one, boys and girls, is the big purpose, making sure you incorporate the importance of the topic in your talk. Number three, ladies and gentlemen, is a personal touch. A personal touch basically is how do you make it personal? How do you add your personal experiences to it, which actually adds so much to the emotional weightage of your content? So 3 fundamentals for TED Talk. And to make things digestible, ladies and gentlemen, what we do is we don't discuss all 3 together. We discuss one fundamental one day. All right. And then we gradually move on to the next fundamental the next day based on the same theme. Now we come to the agenda, the second agenda. First one is the fundamentals. The next one, it's time for me to spill the beans, boys and girls. The theme that we've chosen for you for today's episode is exciting and thrilling. It's the importance of happiness. Well, for your information, ladies and gentlemen, it's actually a subject called happiness taught at Harvard University. So you cannot really underestimate the power of human emotions. And that's the reason why we've actually decided to talk about something as vague as happiness in today's episode. All right, so the topic that we've chosen for you is the importance of happiness. Now, what we do first of all, we'll define the word happiness. So as you see on the screen, happiness is basically a noun. It's about you, your internal state. It's basically about positive emotions. It's something that you cannot control, but they take over. Happiness makes your life better, gives you a reason, a meaning, a value, and therefore you should stay happy and make others happy as well. Live and let live, as Mahatma Gandhi says. So this is what the definition of happiness is. In today's episode, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk in detail about the first fundamental, that is the opening minute, and let's see how we can actually mold a mind-boggling and enchanting beginning using the topic, the importance of happiness. So, introducing you to the first point, ladies and gentlemen, how will you talk about the importance of happiness? So I have a few pointers here for you that you can listen to and learn from. All right. So the first pointer says happiness is very essential in life. If you lead a happy life, you will live for many years. And we know happiness is directly proportional to your longevity in life. And there are so many researches that stand as a testimony to this fact. Happiness is that elusive thing that we all are striving for and hoping to find. That's the first pointer, and I'm sure all of you actually give a thumbs up to it. The second pointer, ladies and gentlemen, is that everyone seeks to be happy and living a more fulfilling life every single day. Happiness basically is an attitude, a feeling of satisfaction with yourself and your place in the world right now. So what we do is we try deconstructing the significance of the topic, my dear participants, by talking about the importance in general. First, we begin with the definition. We then share one of the importances of the topic, and then we try linking the topic to maybe an emotion to make it more comprehensive. So what I've done here is I tried linking it to the feeling of contentment, all right, feeling of satisfaction. The next one says, how do you do it? How do you actually achieve it? Well, I have a solution here for you in a simple statement, which says one should avoid stress and depression so that you can lead a happy life. There are many things that you should not compromise if you want to be happy. All right. So this is how we state the importance of a given topic. Now moving on, today we'll be focusing on how to draft or craft or compose a strong opening based on the topic happiness. All right. Or the importance of happiness. So there are 3 essentials that you need to keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, that the opening minute or the beginning or the introduction will always comprise of 3 essentials. In other words, 3 pillars or 3 components that you need to keep in mind every time you're drafting maybe a speech or a talk or a presentation or a group discussion content or absolutely anything that requires communication, critical communication. Number 1 is the opening minute. Number 2 is the introduction. And number 3 are the facts. Okay. So the opening minute basically is what do you exactly incorporate in the first minute of your introduction? That's something that I'll be teaching you slowly, gradually with relevant examples. Then we'll talk about the introduction. How do you introduce the topic to your audience? All right. And number 3, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be discussing about the facts. How to incorporate fun, interesting, fascinating facts, which will keep your audience's attention hooked to you. All right, participants. Moving on, let's quickly talk about the first essential, that is the opening minute. Now, most of us have heard of this cliched saying that first impression is the last impression. I do not quite endorse that, but I personally feel that your first impression is the longest lasting impression people have. And that is the reason why your opening minute actually needs a lot of rigorous efforts, meticulous planning, and solid rehearsal. And so we need to spend some time in the opening minute. I'm going to give you an example. Always make sure, ladies and gentlemen, my dear participants, that you begin your opening, your introduction with a quote. Now, what really happens when you actually incorporate a quote at the very beginning, boys and girls, is that you can begin your speech on a peppy and positive note. Number one. Number two, you are actually building credibility. What is credibility? Credibility is the relationship of trust that you share with your audience. How much your audience believes in you, right? How much trust they have in you. And to build a credibility, a relationship of trust with your audience is your prime responsibility as a charismatic speaker. Now, you cannot simply build your credibility as a speaker, as a presenter, by telling your audience, by boasting about yourself or by bragging. No, you do it in a very subtle manner. You do it by making your content believable, by making your content more reliable, by making your content more robust. How do you do it? One of the best and the easiest ways to do it, ladies and gentlemen, is to incorporate a quote, is to find a relevant quote based on the topic. So I have a quote here for you. A great obstacle to happiness is to expect too much happiness. And make sure you also give credit to the writer. So here is the quote by Bernard Fontenelle. So that's something we do. You begin with a quote. And you can always begin with a relevant quote. I have something more for you. A quote can also be replaced by a short poem or a short anecdote or a short story or anything that can create a hook statement for your audience, something that creates a hook for your audience. And how do you create this hook? You create this hook by starting off with something called an attention grabber. An attention grabber. All right. Moving on, ladies and gentlemen, the second essential, the first essential is the opening minute, but the second part of your essential is adding a positive statement. All right. Adding a positive statement. One, a quote. You move on to a positive statement. Because I keep telling you, my dear participants, as a TED speaker, you need to have a solution-oriented attitude, which means you do it when you're actually focused on the optimistic side of the topic. Well, you may gradually move on to the problems as well. You may discuss the dark side as well. But at least in the opening minute, try refraining from all kinds of negativity. And therefore, you have to start off with something very positive like, the secret of happiness is freedom, and the secret of freedom is courage by Corey Jones, right? So this is a positive statement, of course, a quote as well as a positive statement. Now, what really happens when you discuss something positive in the beginning of your talk, boys and girls? It builds the interest of your audience. So you're working at engaging with your audience. And number two, you intrigue your listeners. All right, you excite them. You create a sense of curiosity in them. And that's possible only with the right content, with the relevant content. Number one, quote. Number two, positive statement. Number three, let's try raising a relevant question. Now, when you ask a question to your audience, whether it's a closed-ended question or an open-ended question, what really happens, boys and girls, is that you build a connection with your audience. And as I mentioned earlier, you build a sense of curiosity. You build an ambience of curiosity, right? For example, a question like, is being happy important to you? If yes, why? If not, why not? So asking a question like this can actually trigger your audience's imagination, and you may not really expect them to answer the question instantaneously, but they do have the question in the back of their mind, and that's something that sets the foundation in the beginning itself, right? So that is the kind of groundwork you do in the beginning, boys and girls. You begin with, number one, a quote, you move on to a positive statement, and gradually you move on to raising a relevant question. Let me quickly give you an expert tip now, boys and girls. Being happy doesn't mean you have to be cheerful and smiling all the time. Well, that's a misconception. Feeling happy or being happy is an overall satisfaction of your life, as well as the sum of the feelings you experience every single day. So let's break it down to something called your emotion set. How do you feel as an individual every single day? The feelings you nurture, the feelings you encourage, the thoughts you have in your mind, the thoughts you encourage, the thoughts you eliminate, So basically, it's all about the emotion set, the mindset, the emotions that you go through on an everyday basis. It's not about being happy once in a blue moon, making a splash and boasting about it. It's more about the everyday feelings that you experience. And that's something that we use to define the happiness mantra. Now, let me give you a word that you would love to add to your vocabulary. The word is contentment. It's a noun, boys and girls. The word is contentment. So basically, in English language, we have degrees of adjectives. So, for example, words like happy, delighted, ecstatic. These are degrees of happiness. Similarly, we have degrees in terms of adjectives. So, for example, the word contentment, of course, it does mean happiness, but it is slightly different from happiness, because when you add the feeling of satisfaction to happiness is when you produce the feeling of contentment. Right? So contentment is a feeling of happiness, no doubt, but also a sense of satisfaction, maybe with your life, with your work, with your emotions, with your activities. Let me give you a sentence that you can consider. He found contentment in living a simple life in the country. He found contentment in living a simple life in the country. All right, participants, now I'm going to move on to another interesting activity I have for you. And we've been doing this activity since the first episode. I told you the significance of this activity is that it makes you aware of the importance of quotes, quotations in life. Psychologically, we call it the third person technique, quoting the third person to actually make things more credible, more reliable, more robust. All right. So the reason why we have this activity is because I want you to understand that quotes are incredibly important. You have to start learning them, start using them in your conversations, in your speeches, and see the magic unfold. All right. So let's see the first quote. The first quote is, happiness is not a stage to arrive, but a manner of traveling. Beautiful, right? Profound as well. Happiness is not a state to arrive at, but the manner of traveling. It's a wonderful quote, a very prominent one as well, by Margaret Runbeck. And I think it will be a good idea for you to memorize the quote in case you're planning to speak on a topic like this. The second one, boys and girls, is happiness is not the absence of problems, it's the ability to deal with them. Once again, happiness is not the absence of problems, it's the ability to deal with them. Let's see who said this one, boys and girls. It's by Steve Maraboli. And I'm sure you've heard of this multiple times. And people have actually translated this also in various languages. So if not in English, you must have heard this maybe in Hindi or in your vernacular language before. The next one, ladies and gentlemen, is happiness is not being pained in body or troubled in mind. Wow. Happiness is not being pained, either in body or being troubled in mind. That's again a very powerful quote by Thomas Jefferson. All right. And Thomas Jefferson basically has a treasure trove of quotes, and this is one of them. Now I'm going to move on to my second essential, ladies and gentlemen, the introduction. How do you introduce the topic? So basically, we began number one with the opening minute, wherein you make sure that you have a quote, you have a positive statement, and you ask a relevant question. After you're done with this, we immediately move on to the second essential or the second component, and that is you introduce the topic in a lucid language. Remember, you are speaking to a generic audience. You can't really have technical jargons in your introduction. Something like, scientific evidence suggests that being happy may have major benefits for your health. For example, being happy produces a healthy lifestyle. It may also combat stress, boost your immune system, protect your heart health, and reduce pain. What's more, it may even increase your life expectancy, right? That's the topic. That's how you introduce the topic, that is importance of happiness. In simple words, So you talk about mental health, physical health, and overall well-being of a human being, and how overall well-being of a human being is actually related to his happiness quotient. All right. Now, the next thing you do after you introduce the topic, boys and girls, is you talk about the topic in more detail. So if I add something like understanding happiness, then I need to actually deconstruct the term happiness and deconstruct it for the layman, for my generic audience. And I do this by saying, happy people are more successful in multiple life domains, including marriages, friendships, their incomes, work performances, and health. Basically, happy people get sick very often, very less, I'm sorry. very less, and experience fewer symptoms when they do get sick. Happy people have more friends and a better support system. Wow, such a holistic description of how significant happiness can be in your life, and especially in your all round success, in your all round development, be it your marriages, be it friendship, be it income, be it work performance, or be it your health set. So, participants, you've got to understand that when you're explaining the topic in the beginning of your speech, in the introduction, you need not keep it very biased, or you need not stick to one aspect only. Try considering multiple aspects, multiple dimensions, so that you present a very wholesome picture before your audience. The next thing you've got to do, participant, is maybe you can continue writing with happiness is the most important experience we want for all those we love, including ourselves. We need happiness in our lives for many more reasons than just feeling good occasionally. This answers why happiness is basically important, because it helps us to become better people, the ones we love, for the ones we love, as well as for our community. So, in the first part, we talked about different dimensions. In this part, we talked about the importance of happiness in terms of compassion, in terms of the attitude of service. All right, how do you give back? Let's quickly have something called the fastest fingers first, participants. I'm going to ask you some questions, and all you've got to do is answer with yes or no. Does being happy add more to the moment? Undoubtedly, being present in the moment, right, is the key to happiness. Absolutely. Second question, does happiness cause dissatisfaction? Not at all. We discussed earlier, happiness and contentment. Happiness and satisfaction go hand in hand, right? The next one, my dear participants, is happiness related to health and wellness? You know it, right? Absolutely. It's always been related to your overall health, your overall well-being, and your overall wellness, right? That's the foundation of good health, actually. Now, my dear participants, I'm going to talk about the third essential. I discussed the first essential with you, the opening minute. We moved on to the introduction. And now we have the third essential, which is the facts. All right. Now, there are three things you need to understand before you incorporate or hunt for the facts on the topic given to you. Make sure that you use facts so that the audience grows more interested in your content and in your engagement style. Number two, make sure that you use facts that make your topic more believable. In other words, that increases your credibility. And third one, my dear participants, make sure that your facts actually build trust, a sense of trust. Now, let me give you some examples to help you understand this in detail. For example, a study published in the British Medical Journal asserts that happiness is contagious. People who spend time around happy people find that they themselves experience more positive emotions. Psychology calls it emotion contagion, right? As Jim Rohn says, that you are an average of the 5 people you spend most of your time with. So energy is actually brushed. We experience the same emotions that people in our social orbit experience, and therefore happiness has always been contagious. The second fact says, interestingly, floral scents trigger the brain and increase the feelings of happiness. Specifically, those who are exposed to the smell of flowers are 3 times likelier to exhibit feelings of happiness than those who are not exposed to it. Wow, that's such a fascinating fact. Beautiful, isn't it? Let's move on to the next element, the next fact that you can incorporate to make this element stronger. Modern day researchers have found that our general happiness levels are about 50% genetic, 40% choice, and only 10% circumstantial. Wow, wow, what a deconstruction. So it's a combination of genetics, choices you make. Reminds me of what, the author says in A Man's Search for Meaning. The author, Viktor Frankl, he says that the greatest of human freedom is the freedom to choose. And that is what determines the attitude we have for our lives. The ability to make choices, and see that determines 40% of your happiness in life. Wow. Now, participants, let me ask you one question, a couple of questions to see if you've actually understood the topic today. Is it important to be happy per day? Yes or no? I discussed this earlier as well in the introduction that yes, you need to be happy per day. It's not about being happy once in a blue moon. That doesn't really account to your happiness quotient. It's about the incremental or the everyday happiness that you exhibit or you experience. The next question, participants: can we have a lovely moment without being happy? Never, right? We can never experience a lovely moment without being happy. Now, let me give you a recommendation, participants. As you see on the screen, there are tons of TEDx video, plethora of videos on the topic like happiness. And for a beginner, for a newbie like you, it's going to be a little confusing to actually choose what to watch. So to make things easy for you, I have a recommendation. It's a powerful video, very insightful, titled The Happiness Advantage. All right. The description box actually contains the link. Please make sure, my dear participants, that you watch this before tomorrow's episode so that you know the essence of the topic that we've discussed today. And in a nutshell, today we talked about the first fundamental, that is the introduction. Number 2, the opening minute. And number 3, the facts. And how to make your opening or your introduction solid, robust, and compelling. Now, these are 3 essentials we discussed: opening minute, introduction, and the facts. All right, participants. Now, in tomorrow's session, tomorrow's live episode, I'm going to talk to you about a big purpose. And how do you incorporate a big purpose? That is the significance of the topic. How do you talk about the cause and the effect? And how do you bring it all together in form of a summary? And that too on the topic like happiness, the importance of happiness. We'll be discussing at length tomorrow, 7:15 p.m. on Facebook and YouTube Live. Please do join me, participants. And I look forward to adding more value to your communication game with these episodes that we have for you. Thank you so much for joining me. And I'm going to see you tomorrow, my dear participants. Once again, please take very good care of yourselves. Make sure you keep refining your communication skills. And remember my brain tattoo: an idea without execution is just an illusion. So if you really want to make the most of these workshops and sessions, please make sure that you're actually applying these ideas, these lessons in your everyday life. Grab the opportunity. Manifest your eloquence and own your game. Thank you so much, participants. I'm going to see you tomorrow. Take care. Stay well.